Hi guys, this is a special episode. Yes, I'm mushroomed out. Yes, I look silly and dorky, but it is the vibe today because I am a mushroom advocate. Now, I want to put a disclaimer because I know that a lot of people have been waiting for this video, but before we get into like anything too heavy, I just want to put a disclaimer. I am not a medical expert. I am not a doctor. I am not a scientist. I am not a neurologist. So please do not take this as medical advice. Just take this from my personal experiment and experience because I did this all on my own. I was not given the medical advice that I was expecting. Well, to be honest, I kind of was expecting it. But with that being said, if you have not watched my first year update video, the link is right down in the bottom, so you can just go ahead and click that. That was my 1 year update. And just kind of talking about the basics. Now, I was not as confident talking about that back then just because it was still new. It was still something I was experimenting with. And now, with that being said, there are also a lot of other variables, factors, especially with epilepsy alone. But you know, there's a lot of other reasons. There's lots of reasons why we have seizures. And now this is not, you know, I don't have a specific narrowed down I guess words. Sorry. It is a symptom. No, I'm just kidding. No, I can't really think. I don't have a legitimate diagnosis. Like, I was given a diagnosis, but they didn't have like a causation for my seizures, for my epilepsy, and a lot of us who do have epilepsy will find that that's actually pretty common. So yeah, with that being said, so I don't have like a proper diagnosis. I saw one neurologist and was kind of just really honestly ticked off about the advice I was given. Because I was lectured about CBD, like my first visit to a neurologist in the state of Texas. You know, given I know that there will be other individual neurologists with different belief systems, so this isn't a peg on neurologists or doctors. I think that you should honestly receive a lot of medical advice from these people because they are experts. They deal with things all the time. Now, with that being said, I don't really condone getting advice from one specific doctor, and I will tell you why because of my own personal experience. So I was basically put into the hospital. There was a lot of things that came through with my aura seizures. So my last big aura seizure, there's this thing. You can have like grand mal seizures, which kind of basically debilitates you, puts you on the floor. You're, pulsating, and, there's can be a lot more things involved, but that's basically when you're completely unconscious, you're on the floor, just as a broad example. But there are other types of seizures too that we can have, like aura seizures is a big one. So that one is very common, and they can happen very frequently, like in your sleep, in your dream state, while you're consciously awake. I've had aura seizures while I was at work. I've walked out of a job before, just because I was just gone. Mentally, I was just out. And then I've also, this is a wild story, I've also broke into somebody's home. Yeah, that's the ups and downs of epilepsy. Epilepsy itself doesn't cause you to do wild things itself, but there are a lot of other factors that you can be doing something. Like I've heard people still chopping vegetables while they're having a seizure. So that's just something to keep in mind, that you can still be active, physically active, and have a seizure. So there's like these impulses. Basically what a seizure is an electrical currents within your brain, that and a lot of it's an unnatural electrical occurrence in your brain, because we have electrical currents in our brain that activates things, but there's something that is not necessarily connecting correctly when you have epilepsy, and that's what triggers seizures. So there's a lot of factors. It can be like health related, stress, mood, chemical imbalances in your brain. Like you can actually have like legitimate imbalances in your brain, like your brain just doesn't create serotonin the way it should. things like that. I don't know if that one specifically will cause epilepsy. Keep that one in mind. But you know what I mean? Like, there are other variables, there are other causes that affect your seizures. So having poor diet is a very big one, very common. And I'm going to talk about a lot of these things too during this video, because it wasn't just a tell-all. There's not just one narrow specific cure, and I'm not saying that mushrooms is a cure. I just believe strongly that it can help alleviate a lot of symptoms, and I'll tell you why. First off, there is some medical research, and they're still being developed in the states where psilocybin therapy is now legalized. So clinical trials can exist and occur. So we are trying to play this safe here, but with my personal experiments, I will just go through and give you like a general idea, because you can watch my last video again and kind of get a gist of what I'm talking about, or a big broader perspective of what I'm talking about. But basically, when I went to my neurologist in Texas, they lectured me about CBD, which, you know, from my understanding, my research, and from listening to a lot of other people talk about CBD and how it is actually something you can get prescribed for your epilepsy, I was basically lectured about CBD being addictive, and I thought it was ridiculous. I didn't want to take any medical advice from that dude, and to be honest, I could have gone and found another neurologist, sure, but Texas did not give me that ability. I know that this sounds like, oh god, this girl, she didn't do any of the things right. Okay, I did everything I could. I love you guys. This is a personal experience. I cannot not mesh those two words together. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, you know what I mean. So again, just great a thought. Use discernment while watching this video, please. But again, yes, so I got terrible medical advice. I was basically just prescribed pills. They told me that they had no causation. They had no idea what caused my freaking epilepsy. So I was just dumbfounded. I was basically at a stopping point. I didn't have health insurance. I wasn't able to obtain health insurance even though I had a neurologist letter. Yeah, Texas is crazy. It is really hard to get benefits here, okay? So I don't have medical insurance. I just had to go through the motions and figure things out on my own. Yeah, I have a bottle of Keppra in my bathroom door. But I don't use those. I took them for like a couple of days. Let's be real here. I didn't like how they made me feel. I felt like a zombie. It made me feel drugged. It made me feel out of it. I didn't feel like myself. I wasn't creative. I wasn't happy. I was depressed. So I didn't want to take that route. That is a personal choice. And so with that being said, I did this because it was legal to do. You can obtain mushrooms for scientific research, personal scientific research online legally. If you want the sources for that, I would really suggest watching my last video. And I will provide as much medical documentation as I possibly can so you can do your own research, but also do your own research. Don't just listen to everything that I say, and don't go through all of my research. Go and do your own research, because there's other forms of research out there, and these clinical trials, they are developing, so there are things happening. Now, with that being said, there are clinical trials for autism, PTSD, depression, anxiety, and I don't know how many trials are going on for epilepsy. I really hope this pushes an urge, because I am an example. Now, I'm only one example. This is not scientific research. Scientific research takes a lot of, and needs a larger sample size than one person, okay? So with that being said, again, there are a lot of factors. I did not just do microdosing therapy. I did use golden teacher mushroom caps to use for my microdosing. What I did is I dried the mushrooms, I ground them up, and I turned them into like not a fine powder. It really could have been way more fine. But I ground it up. Basically, I mixed it in with my honey. I had like some nice organic honey. I would strongly recommend like Manuka honey, something that's good for your immune system, and will help you combat other things too. Now, I would try to take even smaller than teaspoons. I really couldn't describe you because a microdose is much smaller than 10 milligrams, I believe. I believe there are different dosages for microdosing, but really the concept behind microdosing is that you're not taking macro doses, which is large amounts of mushrooms, or even like a gram of a mushroom. Like, you don't even want to take a gram. You want to take way less than that. You want to take the least amount possible, because you're not here to psychoactivate. You're not here to hallucinate. It's not going to cause you to hallucinate. It's going to cause a euphoric feeling within you, like in your brain and your body. It's not so much that it will stimulate you body wise, but you will feel a sensation of being happy. Is really the best way I can describe it, because given I did take a smaller than microdosing amounts occasionally, very, very, very occasionally, just to like have a good day off. But really, I was really in it for the healing part, the healing aspect. So I really didn't even, I wouldn't even call them anything other than microdoses. I would just take a little bit more than what I usually did. But yeah, anything smaller than a teaspoon really is ideal, because again, you don't want to hallucinate. It's not here, you're not here to like have some like psychedelic epiphany, okay? That's not what microdosing is about. Beyond our stigmas and conceptions of what psychedelic therapy is. Now, there are some elements to that where that is involved, like with depression, anxiety, but I wouldn't recommend it for this thing because of the thought and the concepts behind mushrooms. They have, this is a personal observation that I made back when I was still like really into like mushroom therapy, because again, if you watched my first video, I did help canvass for legalizing mushroom therapy in the state of Oregon. So I did a lot of research, some personal research while going through all of that, and then beyond, because after that is when I had my first seizure, 2019. Again, watch my first video, it explains all of that. But yeah, so my first seizure was in 2019, and that's when I started doing much more research on mushrooms in general. So something about mushrooms are like, there is this crazy thing, if you're not familiar with mushrooms, that mushrooms like to communicate with each other, like when they're on like different parts in Earth. This sounds really weird. But yeah, we're like, when they're literally like, their DNA is in the dirt, they have great, I can't think of the freaking scientific terms, but they have like their little DNA inside of the ground. And so basically what they do is they try to communicate with each other through electrical waves within Earth. Trees and plants do this too, but what's specifically interesting about mushrooms is that they communicate with each other to find the most ideal place to basically grow. So they have to have specific, and there are different types of mushrooms, so many different types. They have to have specific conditions to really thrive. And so what they'll do is they'll communicate with their family members of mushrooms, and then they will sprout. Go ahead and watch some other videos about that, because that's not my point, that's not my topic today. But that's just like a little cute example of why I believed in what I believe in. But yeah, so that's not scientific research at all. But my concept is, well, this has something to do with electrical waves. So there's electrical waves happening in my brain that are happening at a significance where they're causing seizures. So there's something going on that's triggering the electrical disturbances in my brain that's causing seizures. And so I was like, well, okay, well, mushrooms, I've done plenty of research. There are different mushrooms that help with different parts of your body. Ideally, it really helps with the growth of brain tissue. Trying to kind of go up a little bit so I can find a little bit more. Okay, I'm gonna just go through and show you some research in the comments, so you can just kind of go over and look at what I'm talking about, because I've done this myself. I'm just trying to look at a quote or something, but basically, mushrooms have the ability to help you grow brain tissue. And I'm trying to think of specifically, I think it's lion's mane. Lion's mane can help help grow brain tissue and neurological connections. So lion's mane contains substances that may contribute to nerve growth, and some studies have suggested that it might boost thinking and memory to help protect against Alzheimer's disease. So there are ways to help regrow your brain synapses and help these connections so they have less disturbances within you, because there's less craziness going on. Now, this is kind of a really bizarre concept because this is a new science and there's not like a whole lot of like evidence where you can say, well, mushrooms are helping fix these neurological connections. Like, some of that type of research would be significantly difficult to just pinpoint. So it would have to be something over a time span where we did larger sample sizes and we, observed the I guess the symptoms with the patients themselves over time, to see what actually is being alleviated within their functions. Because now, given I didn't just do microdosing therapy, I did other therapy. I did a lot of like healing, meditation. I did change my diet to help at least boost a keto state. I'm not a keto dieter, but I was trying to at least, have more protein intake and take more things that would help alleviate seizures. So there's a lot of things that you can do for your diet. Now, there's not a cure-all, and now with that being said, you can still do a lot of things in addition with this therapy, because this is what I did. I took other mushrooms in supplements, so lion's mane, cordyceps. There were a lot of other mushrooms. I have a specific brand that I used, and I can put that in the comments down for you too. I think it's Paul. Yeah, it's Paul Stamets. He has a brand. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's really great. And you can use it for other things too. Like, it helps with your diet, it helps with your brain, it helps with your body, memory, all kinds of things. So now, along with all of the mushrooms I was taking, I was also taking MCT oil, which is coconut oil. I think it's more concentrated. I think I'm pretty sure they extract it to make it more concentrated. I don't know for certain, but I know that coconut MCT oil is really good for your brain too. So you can have like that mushroom coffee. I personally have never had mushroom coffee. I've heard about it and I really want to get on the fix. But yeah, there are other things. There are other things that you should do to contribute to your success in dealing with your epilepsy. Now, I want to say this. I am 2 years since October. I should have really recorded this back in October, but I didn't have time. I had a lot of things going on. But yeah, I'm 2 years seizure free. Now, what does that mean? That does not mean grand mal seizure free. That means all seizures. I am all seizure free. I have not had an aura seizure. I have not had a grand mal seizure. I have not had any of those other little seizures that you have. No, I have not. I have dealt with anxiety and stress on extreme levels too. That being said, I lost my cousin to suicide, unaliving himself, just a few months ago, and I went through a lot of turmoil and conflict in my life prior to my first grand mal seizure, which was back in 2019. So I've been going through a lot of stress and anxiety after my mushroom therapy. I just want to put that out there because stress and anxiety is a huge factor in epilepsy because it causes dysfunction within your brain, chemical imbalances. Your diet can cause chemical imbalances. So I've not been on the healthiest diet either. I don't know if you've noticed, but I have gained a little bit of weight because love. But you know what I mean? So there's a lot of things that I wouldn't advise doing now, but I did do, and I'm still in pretty great health. Now, I know 2019 had this peak of like turbulence, obviously, we were all witnessed, but you know what I mean? There was a lot of conflict. Like I lost my job, I got divorced, I moved back home, I had a grand mal seizure when I got back home, and that was after a lot of stress. So I don't even honestly know if my epilepsy was related to stress. I truly believe that it was, but my first grand mal seizure was very random. I was just hanging out one day, like painting or something, and I just like dropped. And I didn't even know. I had no idea until like weeks, maybe a month later, when I could start to like think again, because I don't know if you're familiar, but like having a seizure, it really affects your memory. Like I had a hard time remembering like dates, things that I did, places that I've been, and my dad's birthday. Could not remember that. It was very, very traumatizing. Now I don't really have a whole lot to say about like what was the tell-all cure, because again, there's no cure for epilepsy, unfortunately. There's a lot of variables, a lot of factors involved. So I can't really just tell you, hey, this thing worked for me. This is just my personal experiment. Wow, I keep doing that. I don't know, maybe that's the title of the video, whatever. Like I can't really say that this is gonna work for everybody. I can't say this is gonna work for anybody. I really can't. I'm just one person, unfortunately. So, you know, I don't want to put this in your head that like, hey, this is gonna fix all of your problems when you've gone and knocked on all kinds of other doors. There are like extreme, much more debilitating versions of epilepsy than what I have. I believe. I don't know if they're what they classify as levels. From my understanding, you just have epilepsy. There are different forms of seizures specifically. However, like again, I didn't have like a clinical diagnosis. They just basically gave me an MRI, said they didn't find anything, and then gave me pills. So I didn't want to take that route, and I know that there's a lot of people out there, because, you know, hey, it's November, by the way, Epilepsy Awareness Month. I don't know if y'all are familiar, but it's November. So I hope this spreads around, because I want people to know that there are other options. And I don't want to condone this as an option, but there are ways that you can openly combat your epilepsy, so you can fight back and take your power back. Because, you know, for the longest time, and I know that a lot of us feel this way, because I'm in some epilepsy support groups. A lot of us feel so debilitated, and so weak and so helpless when we have epilepsy. It's a big factor in our depression, our anxiety, our PTSD, like how we affect our family members. I know, I just wanted to personally fall off the planet when my dad saw me almost freaking die, because I don't want to traumatize my family. That is the last thing anybody wants, is to traumatize their family with like death. So I'm sorry that this is so dark and gloomy right now, but this is very personal for me, and it was very debilitating. You know, I had a lot of problems, a lot of health problems. I was, you know, having a lot of aura seizures while I slept, and so I had to like fix my whole sleeping situation. I put like, there's a mushroom back there. I'm sorry you can't see him. He wants to be the star of the show right now. So just so you know. But yeah, so I was really debilitated, you know, and it's a very saddening feeling when like you have to have other people kind of look out for you. So there are all kinds of ways to take your power back. Basically, I gave myself a bunch of dog tags. I gave myself a couple dog tags with like my dad's personal info and another loved one's info, so they can be called if something happens to me or if I just end up disappearing one day, because I can literally walk off into somebody's house and nobody would even know. My dad didn't know my personal info. My dad didn't know that I was in the mental hospital. I think that somehow they found his contact info, probably from, I have honestly no idea, because I didn't have any personal identification on me. I'd have to honestly ask how they even really identified me. I'm sure there was some way, maybe, I don't know. But eventually, I was found. No, just kidding. I think that I hopefully or thankfully, I think that I was actually in, this is what's crazy. I think from my memory that I was actually in the mental hospital. I didn't remember my dad's phone number. I was given like, you know, you can make phone calls from the mental hospital. So I was like in one of those overnight facilities, or basically like a short-term care facilities. So they let you have phone calls, they let you talk to people and stuff, and you're not there against your will, unless they deem you a menace to society. But like, yeah, so I don't really remember, I didn't really remember my dad's phone number, so I don't honestly know how he found me. I'd have to really ask and probably come back to another video, but I know there was some way. But anyway, it's like, unless you have like personal identification on you, which I really recommend, personal advice, having like identification on you and having something that signifies that you have epilepsy is very important. I know that it can seem like a personal fact to be telling other people, but once you learn to like love yourself and take your power back, then you will realize that a lot more people won't look at you differently. A lot of naive people will still look at you differently, but those naive people aren't really strong characters to have in your life, especially when you're dealing with this sort of thing in your life anyway. So don't take that personal. You know, people deal with personal things. People have barriers. They mentally cannot capacitate taking care of another individual. Don't feel bad if somebody can't take care of you. You can take care of yourself, and you can find people that are willing and loving enough to help you take care of yourself too. So now, with that being said, you know, I had a loving relationship with somebody who really helped me with my self-esteem and retaking my power back. Now, not everyone is going to have that, and so I just want to be an advocate for you to take your own power back, because this is not something that has to debilitate you and has to take power over your life. You can take strong power back over your life. Now, that is the entire purpose of this video. So I really hope the message comes through and clear that, again, this is not medical advice. This is my personal advice to help you with your own healing journey. Now, okay, so to kind of elaborate a little bit on mushroom therapy, because I know that we kind of span off on a lot of other topics too. Mushroom therapy is very beneficial for a lot of other attributing factors that will affect your epilepsy. Now, that has to go along with your immune system, your diet, your brain function, and your core memory. So there are literally mushrooms that help you repair things within your brain. So with that being said, if you feel like it would at least benefit you to take this alongside with your medication, I would bring up the topic to your neurologist, take their advice, heed it, especially if you have more extreme cases of epilepsy where they are much more frequent than mine. I had mine, I think I had 3 within a 2-year span, grand mal seizures, and then a bunch of other aura seizures. I would not be able to count how many of them because there was a lot. But yeah, so that is my personal story and personal advice. So I just want you to at least understand that there are options out there for you, not just any specific advice that you're given by an individual. Now, I know that this is going to be a knock on neurologists, but again, like, other people will have the same experience I did with their neurologist, where they've been given terrible advice and basically just, here, take some medication. We have nothing we can do for you. That's it. Yeah, not that's first of all, it's really saddening to do that to an individual. Just throw in the towel on your first visit and just be like, yeah, sorry, there's nothing we can do for you, but here's this $200 bottle of drugs that you're gonna have to take for the rest of your life, maybe. We don't know, but here, buy it. Like, nobody wants to go through that experience, and then at that same time, that same level, that is debilitating. You are going to an expert for help, and they're not helping you. I know that there are not cures for epilepsy, but at the same time, just telling somebody that there is no help for them is such a lie. There is so many things. Like, I wasn't even given advice about my diet. Like, there were so many factors. The only thing I was given advice on is to take these pills. Like, and then I was given like a brochure. I think it wasn't like even a brochure, it was like a packet. It might be in my drawer somewhere. I don't know. I didn't care for it. All it did was basically tell me how to get ready for seizures, and it didn't really give me any advice on, like, drink more water. Like, I think they may have given me some slight advice about, like, fixing my diet and stuff, but I honestly don't even know they gave me that advice, because I just remember being lectured because I brought up CBD. And I was like, well, why can I just take CBD, or can I take CBD along with this? And yeah, no, I was lectured about CBD being addictive, which is false news, guys, false news. And that's just my example of why you shouldn't just trust any specific individual, because they may have an agenda. You may not be their prerogative. So, like, with the human error in mind, sorry. Yeah, I don't really believe that anybody can be an expert on this sort of topic anyway, because there's no expertise on it. It's crazy, the amount of stigmas and beliefs around epilepsy. Just completely, that's it. You're epileptic. That's it. I don't think that that's the end game here. I don't think that's a stopping point for your life. I don't think that you should just be diagnosed by one individual. I think you should go to multiple doctors, to be honest, too, and get more advice. And now, with that being said, that's not exactly feasible for a lot of us either, because a neurologist is really hard to come by. You have to be on a waiting list. You have to really jump through hoops to change your doctors, and then getting medical help, like medical insurance and assistance from the state, which a lot of us are going to need, because we can't necessarily get a job, especially after we've had a seizure. It's really debilitating. So it's important to understand that you have to, like, take some initiative yourself to do the right thing for yourself. Because nobody's gonna have the right idea for you. Like, nobody's going to have there's going to be people that have your best interest at heart, but that doesn't mean that they're going to know what is best for you. And I'm not saying that you're going to know better than everybody else either. I'm just saying that you can take a lot of element of power back and help your situation by changing your diet, changing the way you consume material online, because anxiety and depression, those things are really big triggers. So like you can alleviate a lot of these stressful factors that can cause seizures to even lower your risk. So I don't want you to be like, oh, okay, microdosing therapy, that's gonna fix my brain. No, I don't want you to do that. I want you to think about all of the other factors involved, combine them, find something that works for you, but don't go and experiment on yourself either. I just want you to understand that there are other options. Again, so many other options out there. That is my tummy rumbling. I hope you didn't hear it. I'm gonna have to cut this short soon. But you know, there's a lot of other options, and I want to provide as much research as I possibly can. If you have any advice or comments, I would love to hear them, because I am not doing this for myself. I'm doing this for other people. I am 2 years seizure free. I want a gold mushroom medal because I feel like I deserve it. It's been a rough ride, and I got a job interview tomorrow, so hopefully that falls through. It's hopefully a temporary solution to everything, because I would love to make money doing my own thing and running my own business. But that being said, like I've worked 3 jobs since my last really debilitating seizure, which ended me up in the mental hospital, and I've had 3 or 4 jobs. I think I've had 4 officially. No, 3. I've had 3 jobs since then, so I was able to learn how to multitask again, because it was really difficult to multitask after all the aura seizures and the grand mal seizures I had. It was extremely hard. I actually lost movement in my hand during a few of my seizures. Like, I wasn't able to move my arm. So there was a lot going on, and with that being said, I can multitask again. I can remember things that I didn't before. I can drive. I can go and do things on my own by myself, because I have like my dog tags with me on my backpack at all times. So if anything ever were to happen, I'm okay. I'm safe. I got my information on me. So, there's a lot of ways to take your power back, and I just want you to love yourself and take care of yourself, because not everyone's going to have your best interest, but you can have your best interest at heart, and then you can figure things out. Okay, I love you. I hope you enjoyed today's video and it gets to the right people. Okay, bye.